All right, let's start the week off. Kypreos, Justin Bourne, in for our traveling Sammy Disco Dan Franceschi.
Yele, what's up, brother?
Fellas, I am doing good.
What's
Great to
going
be
on?
here. All's well. All's well. I'm grateful to be in this seat filling in for Sammy while he's enjoying
love
Detroit,
having you, man.
Michigan.
Is it true that you paid completely Sammy's weekend from Oshawa Junior A Hockey Friday,
Just to get him out of
the
here.
Leafs game, Detroit, and then the Bills game Sunday, so you can get this seat on Monday? Is that true?
No, let me tell you why that's false, Kipper. Because if it was me and I had disposable income of that nature, I'd be the one going to the Lions-Bills game as a Bills fan to go sit there and watch Josh Allen carve up the Lions. That
No
would have been
kidding.
my choice.
Well, you are a Bills guy, but if you keep doing the prep work for our show this good, you may be getting Sam's money anyway soon.
What a lineup.
Holy smokes.
What? Wow.
Sam hates it. I love it.
Yeah, I know he does. I know it irks him. I know.
Sammy, if you're on your way on the 401, keep going. Keep going. Go.
Carry on to
Keep
wherever
going.
you're
Go
headed.
all the way to Cornwall, buddy. We're good. We're good here.
We miss you, pal.
The rest
Yep.
is in place, including Derek Brandale and Frank the Tank. He's in as well.
Awesome.
So we're off and running here on this Monday as we take it towards a Christmas break. And I don't know if you guys were watching the games closely enough to say, okay, it's not the best hockey in the world that we're seeing out of the Leafs.
No.
For Friday and Sunday. Is it what?
It's Saturday.
Saturday.
Yeah.
Saturday.
Back to back.
And just maybe all these games back to backs are kind of catching up with them. I know we're going to get into the specifics of what we saw in Detroit and then back home against the Buffalo Sabres on a rare 5 o'clock start. But I'm watching this hockey, and it's not compelling hockey, and it might have a lot to do with all these crammed games.
Yeah, I've said this before in the past week or two, but like the lull in the Leafs play seems to be coinciding with bad opponents. So you're getting a combination of still getting points in games where they don't play great, but also some of the games are pretty rough. I know Sammy was at that Detroit game. I mean, at least the Buffalo game, there was goals and a comeback and Tavares hat trick. The Detroit game, that was a tough slog, I'll be honest.
I would also say it's a product, and you alluded to it, Kipper, but 4 back-to-backs in the span of 22 days.
Mm-hmm.
All engulfed around a Christmas holiday break.
Yeah.
There's the trade freeze mixed in there. Like, that's tough. That's tough, especially after they had a stretch of 2 weeks where they only played 4 games.
Yeah.
It's to be expected, I would imagine.
Well, I've done enough of these Christmas breaks where it's like one eye on the puck, the other one on flights home
Yeah.
and gifts and who's coming in, who's leaving,
Yeah.
when do they come in, what's going on.
And then it's like, all right, honey, I got to go to the games. I got to be at the game. Like, I got to go.
It does happen. It does happen. But we won't completely take them off the hook either
No.
because there's some things that you liked and some things that you didn't
Yeah.
this past weekend.
Obviously, first weekend without Anthony Stolarz of the year. He'll be getting a start in Buffalo. We can get to the Buffalo game specifically. Any greater takeaways for you from the 2 games that stood out? I know it felt like the offense was once again kind of not there against Detroit, but they did end up putting up 4 in an empty net of the Buffalo game. So
Yeah, I think you got to take that game against Buffalo with a grain of salt too, because if they're not the worst team in the league, they are really close.
10 straight games without a win for the
And
Sabres.
I know Detroit has battled consistency,
Mhm.
but
That's nice.
that's just a better team than Buffalo, is it not?
It's a better team than Buffalo. It's still a bad team.
Yeah.
The ceiling for the Red Wings is like what they are, basically. Like, where are they going to get better? I don't know.
I mean, the Leafs lost to a goalie, Ville Husso. They hadn't won a game in a year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, it's a calendar year. Last December, he picks up a win on Saturday. And then yesterday, it's Devin Levi in the net, who had just been recalled.
Yeah.
So, again, I mean, yeah, the offense was nice yesterday, but at the same time, looking between the pipes and realizing, A, who's in goal and the team they're playing against, at times leaves a little bit to be desired. That's for sure.
Yeah, expected a little more. And then even against Anaheim, not a great defensive team. They haven't,
Yeah.
but I don't know. There are pieces of this that feel like it's coming together. McMahon coming back changes their look for me. they get that depth going and have had a depth line with Domi and Robertson too against Buffalo. So anyway.
In about 30 minutes, we're going to welcome in Gord Stellick, who's been a regular contributor here. Does a terrific job, so we'll look forward to that. And Jason York at the top of the hour as well. We'll talk a little Ottawa Senators. They're hot. Rangers are not. Is that the team?
Such a disaster.
Is that the team that takes a wild card spot away from them?
I don't know if the Rangers are ever going to win again. They're such a mess, Kip. Like Arthur Staple, their beat writers, tweeting about I don't know who's gone next, but someone got to go.
Well, wherever you are watching and listening, Sportsnet 590, The Fan, Sportsnet 360, and Sportsnet Plus from 4 to 6. We're glad you're aboard as we get into the Leafs and Buffalo last night. Let's go to our first Kyper's Clipper of the week, Craig Berube, on his overview of the Leaf performance.
We had good intentions in the first period. Take a penalty. First shift when we get behind. But, I thought after first 7 minutes, I thought we started to take over, and I thought we started to really get going. Guys battled hard. We got all lines. I thought everybody was solid tonight, worked hard, competed hard, did a lot of good things, stayed with it. And it was a great third period. When you got a lead by 1 goal and you go out there and just check and don't give them much, and we had opportunities, couple power play or 2 power plays. And, so it was really good. I thought our leaders stepped up and really did a good job tonight.
When that first Jack, was it Quinn, shot the first one in?
Yep.
Followed by
Short
Tuck
side.
shooting it in short side. The Quinn one stunk. It stunk. Just a clean wrist shot from the...
And we are not used to seeing just stunk goals.
Genuinely jarring. Genuinely so did it get tipped or what? He just shot it in? The processing of he just shot it in. That was shocking. So 3 minutes into the game, were you having a moment? Were you catastrophizing the season like I was at that point? I was like, this is
the only thing
disastrous.
that's kind of played into thinking this wasn't going to be one of those nights is that they haven't had one of those nights.
What's that, where they just get blown out?
Or they're just, it's like everything that can go wrong will go wrong. Are they due for one? But I just don't know the way they play, and they clog up and they don't give much every third period. It's hard for teams to get to the net.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it'll eventually turn.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I was okay with that, but yeah, it's noticeable when those goals go in that you go, I haven't seen those all year.
No. And my thought process was just okay, if Hildeby is Kaskasuo and we can't trust putting him in and he can't go in, what do you do then? Can you lean on Wall heavy? And what if the workload gets to him and he's hurt, and all of a sudden at the end of the day, Hildeby's given up 3 goals on 30 shots and was pretty solid. Ended up being all right, but that was a pretty rocky start there.
It makes you appreciate good goaltending.
Sure does.
That's what it does. It makes you appreciate the fact that in every Anthony Stolarz start, you haven't seen one really bad egregious goal.
No.
And that was a staple for the Leafs. It was always guaranteed 1 or 2 every so often that look really, really bad.
Yeah.
And then it puts you behind the 8 ball. But that was a reminder of what you lost with Stolarz not being available, Joseph Wall being in the position he's in, and now playing all these back-to-backs. You need somebody else. Hildeby isn't the guy right now. Heck, who knows what's going on with Matt Murray and if he's going to be healthy at some point over the next month, because he just got hurt a week ago. But that's where you're at. You're searching for stability right now.
But also, the goalie took a shot at the empty net.
That was fun. Yeah, that was great.
Kip,
were they just down a goal at that point?
It was just 4-3.
It was just 4-3.
But, it looked like a pretty good spot. What was your reaction to that?
Well, first of all,
I think it was
a guy like that would have spent his whole life thinking about that.
Yeah.
I don't know what year exactly Ron Hextall did it for the first time, shooting a puck into the net. But since then, I imagine that every goalie that first put on pads that is lucky enough to get to the NHL level would somehow, some way, constantly be thinking about that or quietly working on that.
Yeah.
From the day he started. So
It's the Michigan. Everyone wants to hit it if they can.
Well over 20 years that a goalie has now visualized himself doing that. Yeah. And to your point, the puck came to Hildeby. It was the perfect storm. He had time to turn, set,
get his shoulders down ice. And if you shoot it good like he did, that it's just a clear, and that's fine. But if you fan on
think about, like, if you put on pads at 7 to, like, last night, how many times he would have done that in a practice?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Thousands. Yeah.
Thousands. So I think it's a natural now feel for goalies to try that. There wouldn't be nerves involved. It would just be strictly repetition. But
his career's in his hand at that point. If he shoots for an empty net, this is his third NHL game, and he whiffs on it and trickles in front, and Alex Tuch shoots it in, and he's already given up a couple of, you may not see him again.
I don't know.
Or it gets knocked down at the blue line or something. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I get your point, but
there's some risk involved.
I didn't see a ton of pressure around him.
And it is game 30 in December. Anyway, let's get Craig Berube.
We are in the forgiving world too, by the way. We could have had a good chuckle on it and moved on.
Yeah, that's probably true. Let's clip 8. We'll hear Berube's thoughts.
Your goalie tried to score, and how do you feel about that?
I thought it was a good play. Guys taking the outlets out on him, coming down the wall. Smart play. Fired it down the ice. I mean, I'm okay with that.
What do you think of his game, the way he rebounded?
Well, he settled in after the first 2. I thought he made a couple key saves in the third period, which were important. I thought he handled the puck well. So, I mean, would he want that power play goal back? Probably. But, he was pretty good for us tonight.
I kind of feel like beating the Sabres 4-3, call it 4-3 before the empty netter, is a little bit like Canada beating Latvia 2-1 in the Olympics, where it's like they won, but it's not supposed to look like that. But still, they did get the win, so can't complain too much. John Tavares, hat trick.
Yeah.
Thought he played well, and he could have had more than that.
I thought his energy was terrific.
Yeah. He's at his best. When he beats someone one-on-one, you're like, okay, he's got his legs tonight. He's engaged. He was pretty good.
Yeah. I think the year that he's having is, in all honesty, a statement year. Mm-hmm. And come on, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure out that guys that are in their last year of their deal find different ways to be motivated. And he, on top of that, he had his captaincy taken away from him.
Yeah,
those are heavy things. Those are big motivators for him to come back and say, "Hey, screw you."
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not going anywhere.
I got 15 by Christmas. He's got another 50 games to get another 15 and hit the 30 goal mark. Pretty good year.
Like, he's showing a lot of juice right now. So keep going.
Do you think?
I don't know where it's going to end up for him and what it's going to look like, particularly on this team. But right now, the production's there, and that's his bread and butter. At the end of the day, he's got to get his points. He's got to produce.
They need him to score for sure. And then what's interesting is they flipped Nylander up on the top line. So we saw Nylander, Matthews, Marner for an extended period, which we almost never see. But all of a sudden, that second line of Tavares, Pacioretty, Nyes is heavy.
Yeah.
I know it's not fast.
No, it's not fast. And if you can play in front of the net, if you can crash, if you can work the walls, it's in your wheelhouse. If you start going north-south a little bit, it might get a little tricky. You saw what happened on Buffalo's third goal, where they're got to skate 1,000 miles in the neutral zone to try to catch somebody. That's what you kind of want to avoid with those guys.
Yeah, it's interesting to know how sustainable it is, come playoffs. You're looking for options that are sustainable. If you have that line and can load up that top one, they all like to shoot. They all like to get to the blue paint. Are they redundant on the same line, or are they just a handful? I think against certain opponents it might work. I don't think it works against the Devils or something.
So what you're saying is go find your Latvia and you can score and you can look good, but we're not sure it'll work against top teams.
Perfect. Yeah, what I'm saying.
What I like about that trio together, and they're three worker bees on the same line. Like, they're all going to go grind. They're going to do exactly what the coach wants them to do. Stylistically, I mean, hand up, admittedly, if we said coming into the season, John Tavares might be perhaps the best forward to acclimate to the Craig Berube system.
Mm-hmm.
I would. I don't know if I envision that, but truthfully, he is. He's literally been that guy.
I had that same thought driving in today. I was like, man, it works with Berube and him.
It's unbelievable all the work he does.
But
in front of the net, yes, go ahead.
go ahead. Yeah.
No, I
front
was
of the
saying
net.
all the work in the dirty areas in front of the net, just getting your butt down in front of the goaltender, playing behind the goal, below the goal line. Like he's found that niche, and it works really well under Craig Berube.
It does, until you go through those small pockets where where the stars are a little cooled off and there's no secondary scoring, and then we go, Berube's a little too simple, this system. Maybe, what's going on? He's got to free these guys up a little bit. And, all of a sudden it's
Tavares,
not working for
yeah.
There's a fine line
Long
there.
stretches of no offense at 5-on-5 for Tavares.
And we've seen it.
Yeah.
We've seen it.
Why don't we...
He's either really hot, it seems, or
he's a bunches guy. He definitely scores in bunches. We do have Berube on his hat trick in season, clip 6.
I don't know what to tell you. I mean, this guy's got a heavy stick, smart, competitive. I mean, and he works at his game constantly, even at this age, and he's still doing a great job. It's great to see him. He's been excellent for us all year.
We actually have 3 Tavares clips as well there. Not sure if any of those... Why don't we listen to Berube talking about flipping Knies and Nylander first? We'll do clip 2 here, and then we'll hear from John.
I thought in my head that if I could get Tavares with Knies and Patch ready out there at times against the Thompson line, it's a big line, heavy line. So that was my thought a little bit, and not so much use Matthews against them the rest of the game. We were down, so wanted to kind of loosen those guys up a little bit and give them some different looks. That was kind of like my thought process on it, and it worked out.
That was a Sheldon Keefe-esque thoughtful response on his thought process.
I know.
Yeah. And
Interesting.
the key was that he was down when he did it, right?
Yeah.
It's like, I got to,
Chasing it here.
come on.
Yeah.
I'm got $50 million in
Mhm.
4 guys, and I'm down to this team right now. So I think he muscled right up with Matthews, Nylander, and Marner.
Suddenly you get your good players and you go do the thing.
Yes.
Go do the, And
Go do the scoring thing.
those guys together this year have been, and this is going to shock you, elite. Like they've controlled 66% of the expected goals on the ice together. Shots are 49-19 when they're on the ice. They're amazing when they're on the ice together. So,
Okay, the other aspect is Max Domi.
mm-hmm.
Shut some people up, I think, last night a little bit.
He had a really good night.
He did have a good night.
I do think that having Bobby McMahon back totally changes their ability to get depth scoring. The third line is so much better, causes the turnover on a Greenway pass. But Robertson, last year, do you remember how often he would score post-scratch? J.D. Bunkus was calling him Scratch and Score, was his nickname. He was scratched 4 games before this goal, so they get him back in.
That's pretty good.
That's creative, JD. Well done.
And
He
so,
should get his own show if he's doing
should.
stuff like that.
we do have a clip from Berube listening, talking on Domi and Robertson.
They played excellent. I thought that they were way more engaged with their physical play and hounding and puck battles and things like that. And they did a real good job. That line was excellent tonight for us, and we needed them to be.
And we'll take that right into clip 5 on Domi breaking through, please.
It feels good, trust me. I mean, he's not happy that he hasn't produced or scored, and we need him to. But we need him to play that style of game that he played tonight. That's the difference for me. Way more engaged.
Hey, third line. You want to win Stanley Cups?
Need a good one.
They're the game breaker. They're the game changers.
Is there anything for you where he seems to have these nights where when he's at center, like just being able to skate a little bit more? He's not going to get to play with as good players if he's there, but he does seem to get his feet moving better. Anything to that for you or not?
Do I prefer him in the middle? I don't know if it really matters to him.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's very versatile. I do. I think he can play both sides. I think it just depends on who he's with and how it's kind of bouncing for him. You saw that play right at the blue paint where the puck just had a horrible bounce on him.
Yeah.
where it's an easy shovel in for another goal for him.
Yeah.
But I think it's just pockets and windows for him, and I think he's that guy that you don't necessarily set anywhere up. You just kind of move him around a little bit when it's needed.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, I've told you before.
You want to see him back with Matthews at a certain point.
You know, I have a tough time with Domi, not because I don't like the player, but because I struggle to see, you know, how is this going to work long term? I would like to see him have an extended run with Matthews and Marner and see if this is something that they can create sustainable chemistry and something that they can actually use in playoffs. That would be great. He can think it like the elite players. He had 47 points last year. Like, he's good offensively.
He was good in the playoffs with those guys.
Yeah,
he was good playing up there.
A consistent third line for him would work if he can find a way to get 12, 14 minutes. If he can see a little bit of power play time.
Yeah.
I think that's the wheelhouse for a successful push in
But
spring.
he needs players too, though, right? Like, he can't be out there with Pontus and Minton.
I know.
It's
I know.
not working.
But that's where you go get your third centerman.
Yeah. So if you
That's
do that
where they-
and play, you know, McMahon and Domi with you know, Ryan O'Reilly, or I'm just saying names now, Brock Nelson,
Nelson.
you know, like, all of a sudden you love that
Yeah.
line. But I don't want him to be.
It's coming though. I think it's coming.
Do you think he needs to be a shoot first kind of guy?
Hold
Does he need
on,
to think?
hold
Does he
on,
need to
hold
think
on.
shooting?
We
What's
can't
that?
have him say it's coming and then move on.
Okay.
I heard some
Yeah,
things.
They're gonna go get a centerman.
Like a really good
Ah.
one?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. They will.
you're confident in that?
Yeah, I am.
Like as good as that sort of level of guy,
yeah.
you think? Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
my goodness.
Yeah.
That would change things
coming.
in a big way for this team.
Yeah, I don't know when it's going to happen. It may have to wait it out. You may have to wait it out in March, but I think their preference is to get it done earlier and
That would
not
be-
wait.
You know, there's the trade freeze right over the holidays, but it would be really nice. I say this a lot. I don't love teams waiting till March 5th to make these sort of moves. Like, it takes a while for guys to get acclimated and get comfortable with their lines and the Toronto lifestyle. You got to move into an apartment, and I would love to see them do that earlier. Yeah, here's to hoping it happens.
All right. You know, as far as I guess to your point, measuring it against the Buffalo Sabres, and we'll get into more specifics on where they go from here. Buffalo, maybe in our national hour, but like I'm watching that blue line,
Mhm.
and
Buffalo's blue line?
yeah, Buffalo's blue line.
Okay.
Like maybe Owen Powers should be in Rochester right now.
Oh, my goodness. What did you just say?
Like he needs to learn how to kind of play in his own zone at the pro level.
Is this third year? Yeah,
Is it his third
I
year or more
thought-
than that?
I thought
Might be
he-
more than that.
I thought he struggled.
This is his.
He had
Yeah.
a game last week where he was exposed badly. I forget who they were playing.
He
They were
played
at
8
home.
games.
There's been a
This is
lot of
fourth
games like
season.
No,
that.
tons of them. But I mean, man, no, you're right, Kyper. I
There's a
couldn't agree more.
lot
Yeah,
of games like that.
getting lost in his
And-
own zone.
I'm watching this team and I'm like, this is what can happen if you aren't 100% sure stroking these $50 and $60 million
Buddy,
contracts.
what is Matthias Samuelson getting paid for? Is that his name? They gave
That's right,
him
yeah.
a monster deal, like 5 years plus.
I think it was longer
You'll-
than that. It was a massive extension. Yep.
Oh my God,
Like,
he is under
it's-
contract until
It's a mad
7
scramble
years,
back there.
30 million.
are they-
7 years.
And can I tell you,
it's pure Engvall of defense. contract.
Devon Levi?
Yeah.
Devin
Levi? Like, the guy is doing everything to keep it within one goal. You think one Sabre could go pat him on the pad after a couple of big saves?
Oh, you didn't see that, eh?
Zero. Is zero. Like, what is going on with that team?
I mean, they're without Rasmus Dahlin. Dahlin is back practicing. They're going to get their captain and best defenseman back. So anyone looks worse without their best D.
So
But-
they're
But how about Bowen Byram? His name's in every trade rumor I've ever heard now.
he struggled too.
Yes, he did.
Struggled.
Yes, big Tavares made him look like John Tavares
So,
was McDavid.
I don't know if they were. I think they were up 2-0, and then you see that Peterka
yeah.
Yep.
on his ass, and he takes the one-handed slashing penalty.
Mhm.
But if I'm behind the bench and my team's up 2-0 and I see that selfish, stupid, I'm going to get back to you with this tap, and it's not like if you're going to put us down, break his ankle, right? Like make it worth it. But to take that stupid penalty when we're up 2-0, like that guy doesn't see 1 second after that penalty.
You know, I think it's tough when a lot of the guys you draft don't have that, like Tage Thompson is kind of, he's super talented, but, you know, they just don't seem to have that professional, competitive. It's tough in this league. I get it, but it's been a losing culture, and this is what happens when you say we're going to bottom out. We're just going to strip it down and bottom out, and then you look around the league and you go, Sam Reinhart, Brandon Montour, Ryan O'Reilly, Linus Ullmark wins a Vezina somewhere else. Names, like all these guys went somewhere else and had success. And you're just moving on because you're trying to lose and all. It just.
Was it Byram that Tavares undressed?
Yeah.
But you're an NHL defenseman. You cannot allow that to happen.
Try looking at his chest. Isn't that what defending? I don't know.
Who are the veterans on that team? Like what veteran?
Like
be.
that's Tuck, Zucker's old.
Yeah, Zucker's old.
Cousins is considered.
Is he?
I don't know. I mean, he's getting paid $7 million. I certainly hope he can
he's
be
only
considered a leader.
23.
That's what I
leader.
was gonna say. 23 years old. Maybe that's where
I
you
don't
look
know.
in the mirror a little bit. Get somebody in there. Get a few guys in there with experience, pedigree.
They have one guy in their 30s, and it's Zucker, and they got no one even at 29. So it's a bunch of young guys. Anyway,
Power play over the weekend.
you know, Marner McScray played a Matthews for one.
Mm.
Did they have another one?
They had one last night, didn't they?
I believe so.
Oh, yeah. Matthews one-timer off Tavares' shin.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But yeah, still should be sharper.
Yeah. No, they're still trying to get that that part dialed in. I'd be curious to know, and I should look into this, the entry statistics, because you know Marner and Nylander are so good at it. Matthews hasn't had the same success.
Yeah, I don't want Austin carrying the puck in the neutral zone on it.
No, and they just everyone. It's such a copycat league, and everyone went to this like the drop thing. No one has tried a new option in 10 years, or whatever it's been 5 years. Like, I remember being with the Marlies and like writing up some options on a pad of paper. So I was like, God, this is all we ever do. That was 2017. Like, I would love to see someone have a new idea on a break-in, but it doesn't happen in the NHL very often.
Yeah, I think Sammy's used this term before too to describe it. Sometimes they just lack urgency. That bothers me, and I think it's heightened when you see actually the 5 forwards out there together. It's actually worse when it's just the 5 main guys, that the big guns out there. I find that that's when things get really casual, and you're just sitting there hoping that they don't turn it over at the blue line because they ain't skating back.
Yeah.
Like literally, if it's a turnover there, it's either a 2-on-1 or a breakaway because they're not getting back. And that always keeps me on edge is the lack of urgency with the power play, especially when it's those guys on the ice.
For sure. Go ahead, Kip.
I was just going to maybe just ask Disco about the clip on Tavares talking about Berube's system. You like that?
Yeah, I thought
Before we get to Gord, let's hear something Tavares.
Yeah, I thought this one was interesting actually in pulling things because I talked about how it stood out to me in terms of how he's fit in, but he sort of addressed bigger picture why it's been a little bit of a challenge for these guys to find a way to get it going. So here's John Tavares, clip 2, please, Derek.
Yeah, we just got to keep going. I think we all want to continue to get better as a team and individually. Pucks maybe haven't been going in as much offensively, but I think we're still growing and finding our way with how we're playing and the identity of the group and things coaching staff is preaching and what we're working on. So a lot of good signs today, something we want to build on.
Identity.
That's as upbeat and excited as I've heard him.
Yeah.
He sounds like a guy who just scored 3. Guy loves this.
And you got to be on top of your game to play Berube style, I think, which first and foremost is legs and energy.
Yeah.
Right? If you're going to give up the puck, you got to get it back, meaning dump ins. And if there's just that small window where they're just a little off, then it can kind of look like New Jersey.
Like, what do you mean? Like the fast New Jersey Devils?
Yeah, well, like go dump it in, but it's coming back out real quick.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah,
That's the look that we got when they went to New Jersey. And if they're
I thought you meant they look like the Devils.
no,
Against New Jersey.
no, I'm just saying
I gotcha.
that Berube's system means if you're going to dump it in and chase it, you better have those legs going. You
Or you're
better
just gonna be chasing
your
all night.
angles better be perfect. The second guy better not get caught with one pass, right?
Yeah, my complaint with this team right now is I think they often don't leave the next line set up for success because bad dump, they'll go chase it at the end of a shift, and all of a sudden they're coming back the other way, waving guys on the ice. I think better dumps, better changes.
Better dumps and better changes and like length of shifts too. You can't get caught out there minute and a half, minute 45, 2 minutes, which happened I think in Detroit, where they're out there a long time sometimes.
Yeah.
All right.
Let's get
Anything
to
else you want to
Gordo.
touch on before we take a break and bring on Stellictricity?
No, sir.
All right. Take a quick break. As we said, Gord Stellick, former general manager of the Toronto Maple Leafs, an all-around good guy. Next on Real Kyper and Bourne. All right, as promised, Stellictricity, our Christmas version of Stellictricity. Gord Stellick, former NHL general manager, Toronto Maple Leafs. Now, man, are you looking good these days? For those of you that cannot see Gord Stellick on the Zoom, he looks like he's in fighting shape. Is it true that you've got a fight scheduled versus Jeff O'Neill on Netflix coming up? Is that what's happening here between the two of you?
Well, I don't want to give it away yet, but yeah, the O Dog versus the Stell Dog. It's I think it'll be better than the
Winner
than
fights
some of the
Jake
other
Paul or
matches
what?
we put out there. So I'm going to try to lay off the poppy treats, and we could have a big announcement soon, Kipper.
Love hearing that. How are you? All these games crammed in, Gord. I was telling the guys that obviously the schedule got kind of closed up a little bit during this past stretch. I think it's to shut down the league for Four Nations for 3 weeks coming up in February. But what have you been seeing out of the Toronto Maple Leafs or in general the games the last few weeks?
Yeah, what? Well, a number of things, and one is that intangible. Well, first of all, the intangible about finding ways to win. And I thought, they had that horrible home game against Ottawa. We're getting killed by Washington, came back and won that game. And here they're looking to go back-to-back losses against two teams that they should beat. And they found a way to come back against the Buffalo Sabres. They got some depth scoring from Robertson and Domi. I know, of course, a hat trick from Tavares. So, I mean, that's the good part I've seen. And you're right, it's a pretty jammed 82-game regular season. What does it mean in the playoffs? I mean, that's always the question. What's lacked in the playoffs is what they're generally best at, and that is scoring goals. So it's hard to figure what the template will mean come playoff time, but I've liked that. Whatever the style was, it's Craig Berube's, a little bit of a different style, a little more of an emphasis on defense. They seem to have a little bit more depth, and they're in first place.
Gord, did you have a moment like I did when Dennis Hildeby gave up a couple of softies to start the game? Well, the tuck one was decent, but still where you're like, uh-oh. Like, what does the Leafs goaltending situation look like to you going forward? Has the Stolarz injury shaken your confidence a bit?
Well, for people old enough out there, it gave me nightmares and memories of Yuri Serha about letting
who can
those
forget
in,
Yuri
right? Just
Serha?
the whole bench just used to deflate, and you knew you're in a lot of trouble. So it's something we haven't seen so far. And Justin, first of all, depth-wise, I don't know. This is about as good a goaltending tandem they've had for the halfway point of a season. Saying you're worried about injuries is valid, given Joe Wall's situation. Look at Freddie Anderson now in Carolina. It started the end with the Leafs and went there. You look at Matt Murray's never really been able to get back still from any kind of injuries. And then Stolarz, he's had problems before, but he's been the healthy guy. So yeah, it kind of reminds you about what happens if your goalie goes down. It could happen. What you have to do is what Vancouver did without Thatcher Demko for a chunk of it, and that's why you hope you keep the 1-2 depth. But yes, I did have a bit of a post-traumatic stress traumatic memory of the infamous Yuri Serha area.
Gord, it's hard to talk depth without mentioning that the Leafs are flirting with being in the bottom third of scoring. I don't think anybody saw that coming up towards the Christmas break. So we saw last night against a struggling Buffalo Sabre team. Max Domi scores. It looked like they got a lot out of McMahon and Nick Robertson last night. Is that something that you want to see kind of play out, let it breathe a little bit here, or do they really start looking for alternatives outside of their organization to look after
I'm
some
sure they're going
added
to
scoring?
add a spice or two by the trade deadline. But Kippy, that's the valid worry about. And even when they had scoring in the regular season, they weren't getting in the playoffs and they weren't getting depth scoring. You're kind of saying, where is our Nick Paul? Who's going to get that big Nick Paul type goal like Tampa Bay did against Toronto? He did for Tampa Bay a few years ago. So I don't know if you want to call it a trade-off, whether that was intentional or what, to be a more complete team. But yes, it is what's let them down every playoff, not just depth scoring, but the big guys scoring. So goals are hard to come by. They're harder to come by in the playoffs. They seem to have in the past found a way to get them in the regular season, but not in the playoffs. But yeah, I mean, everything's going well. You're winning, but does the tap get turned off a little too much? It doesn't come back. You got to get Domi going. You got Max Pacioretty could be that guy. Bobby McMahon could be that guy. I don't know if Nick Robertson could be that guy, but somewhere you're going to have to get some depth. There's no question about it, particularly in the playoffs, because you got to rely on more players. And the Florida Panthers, they've leapfrogged past the Maple Leafs, and you really saw last year what the depth in the playoffs meant for them.
Gord, the Leafs really like to play Jake McCabe and Chris Tanev together, which everyone should like. They have a ton of success when they're out there. But that leaves Morgan Rielly sort of once again struggling for a partner. He's a weird guy for partnering reasons. How do you like him with OEL? It doesn't seem like that's going to be it's playoffs, game one sort of solution.
Well, first of all, you got to love both Tanev and OEL. I mean, really, and Stolarz. Sure. You really look at, as Nashville struggles with bigger name free agent signings, what Brad Treliving and Leafs were able to do in the offseason. And it's funny, we always talk about how Luke Schenn came in. That was one of those great trade deadline pickups that was kind of a quieter one, and for whatever reason really worked with Morgan Rielly. There's always that debate about, how much should the top D be able to do it himself with whatever partner versus trying to find the right kind of partner. So I think, Justin, that's something they could explore come the trade deadline, but it doesn't strike right now. That first pair, and of course the D play a lot of minutes. You can sort of cave in the numbers. They can play more minutes in the playoffs as it goes, but there's no question there's not the same fluidity or stability beyond that number one pair as far as being a cohesive unit. And whether they address it or not, I don't know, but I think they certainly will look to.
Sometimes I watch Morgan and I wonder if he's feeling internal pressure to produce, and I think he's on pace for roughly, Gord, 40 points. Do you think at times he finds himself pushing just from the fact that he's supposed to be producing at $7.5 million a year?
Well, it's funny. We talked about with John Tavares for so often about that number, 11 million. And, you look in baseball, I think Freddie McGriff's a great example. Like some guy, if you ever look at his batting average, one year it's like 50 points higher than every other kind of season. And it's sort of say, well, okay, that was a blip. And same with Morgan Rielly when he scored like 20 goals or whatever it was, well, we thought that would be more often the case. And it is important to get as much offense as you can from the defense as well. So it's an interesting one because he's your number one defenseman. I'm very big on him. I'm very bullish on him. Well, Chris Tanev's up there too, but I mean, he's been your number one defenseman, say, for about the past decade. But you don't get the wow factor with him, like the Victor Hedman factor about being the number one stud D. And maybe, Kippy, to your point, and you would know it, being a player that all of a sudden you get that number and there's these kind of expectations, and maybe you're trying to do a little bit too much. I mean, I think one thing with OEL that he's become more comfortable about, he's not the superstar the Vancouver Canucks thought they were getting or fans thought was supposed to be. Like he's found a comfort zone now, taking a step back and playing that particular kind of role. So I think that's a constructive comment about Morgan Rielly at times.
Well, it's interesting because, he did make up towards $8 million OEL in his heyday in Arizona, right. But he was also a guy that was supposed to produce 15, 20 goals a year.
Mm-hmm. Did.
And he did. Yeah. He had a good stretch there for a while.
He did.
No, absolutely. And I just, like I said, I think that's a good example. So Morgan Rielly can't go there. He can't go there this time in his career with the Toronto Maple Leafs. He's what kind of the thoughts of OEL were by Vancouver Canuck fans when he first arrived.
Gord, Kip knows sometimes I feel like Matthews gets a bit of a rough ride on this show. I stick up for him a lot. I'm the Matthews defender around here. Something's not right. I don't know what your thoughts are on how he's looked lately, if he needs another trip to Germany. But it just doesn't seem like there's the same level of physicality or tenacity or energy. I don't know what it is, Gord. What do you see? Am I crazy here?
What's Kippy's problem with Austin Matthews? What's your problem, Kippy?
He doesn't look anywhere near the second best player in the world. That's my problem.
High expectations.
Do you think it's because something's going on physically? I mean, we never know, but I have to think with all he's done that he's not 100%. So yeah, right now he's not going to win the Hart Trophy or those kind of trophies right now. But you always want Austin Matthews in your lineup, to say the least. So I will be a defender of Austin Matthews as well. But whatever the bet, and it was weird. There was that sideshow last year about him scoring 70 goals, which I don't think was healthy at the end of the year last year either, heading into the playoffs, trying to focus on that individual record. So that at least won't be a worry this year. And maybe everything means better team-wise, even though individual-wise for some players, it isn't quite the same.
Yeah, listen.
What are your thoughts, Kip? Because we didn't talk about Matthews in the first block.
We didn't. To your point, it just doesn't seem like he's all in right now.
He's getting points, but it's not.
Maybe it's physical. Maybe it is. Yeah. They never came clean on his injury, and maybe he's just not there. Honestly, I think he lacks a little confidence right now around the net.
Yeah, it could be.
He's just not of that.
Wow. He has lots of chances.
He has lots of chances, and sometimes they should be non-chances. Sometimes I watch his wraparounds, and I'm going, those aren't working. Maybe back to the point or keep the play alive. But, there's that fine line. And just to kind of touch a little bit on the Morgan Rielly aspect, maybe there's a level of expectance that he needs to be the guy that's putting the puck in the net all the time. And under this system, maybe he's not a 60-goal scorer under Craig Berube's system. Maybe that might have something to do with it.
Kippy, didn't you lead the NHL in non-chances one year? Do I remember correctly?
Every year. Every year.
Wait a sec. Okay. Whatever. Let's leave the 70 goals alone and that, whatever, what have you. As I said, as you just articulated, Kippy, if it means a better team concept, I'm all for it. I'm just, Austin Matthews, hey, it's kind of like Ovi last year, maybe like Ovechkin. Last year, at the start of the year, he had a bit of a dry spell, which was unusual. Not being 100% could be part of it, but I think that's you asked me, Kippy, starting off. One of the best things I saw was how Mitch Marner, which wasn't surprising, how everybody jumped up in the absence of Austin Matthews and how they played as a team. And maybe his absence and this time around, how people stepped up might be one of the best things that happened this season.
Yeah, absolutely. Are you good on that if I turn the page?
I am. Do you have a conclusion at all?
No, but I am concluding that he doesn't look as effective as he has in the past. My one thought is, Mitch Marner hasn't been as effective since Matthews has been back either. Or do we maybe want to go back to giving Marner his own line and see if Matthews can make it work somewhere else? I don't know. Is that a crazy thought?
No, it's not. And the power play hasn't looked as well.
I like that thought. I like that thought about, that there's a lot more options out there for Craig Berube to try. I think I like that thought very much.
Yeah. And getting McMahon back is a big one for me, Gord. He's just got this great combination of speed and size. He was physical, and all of a sudden he takes a third line from being just the third line to a line that can produce and chip in a little bit. Do you think that's what changed for Domi and Robertson, is just getting someone on the wing who can kind of make some space and get some pucks?
Well, yeah, someone's got to get you the puck. You're right, and that could be it. So again, but let's throw another one back, Justin, about just Max Pacioretty. Now, again, if he can stay healthy, is huge, but what's impressed me about him, it's a very different stage of his career. If you look back, he had a really consistent run with the Montreal Canadiens with 30-goal seasons and that. He's playing different now. He's playing more aggressive. He's showing more snot that Brad Treliving wants. And he understands, like it's a different setup here. It's a different kind of role. And I really admire those kinds of players that late in their career can say, we see Corey Perry having done it, that there's a different component I got to try and stress. Now, I know I have to say it's incomplete, a lot of it due to injuries because of him, but that's another option that really has intrigued me.
Yeah, for me, now it's just moving forward, the reliability of both these guys.
Buddy, they have a lot of guys that you like, but you're nervous about. The
Yes,
goalies,
and
McMahon, Timmins, Pacioretty.
End of the playoffs this year on a couple occasions. It's like, will you be there? I don't think anybody's nervous on whether or not you could contribute or look effective when you're in, but can we count on you being there at the end?
Well, Justin, it's like when you're single and you're dating. There's a lot of girls you like, but you're nervous about, right? Same thing. Ultimately, you hope the right one comes around like it has for the three of us, and we are blessed. And maybe that's how it plays out in a hockey sense.
It is funny, like just seeing Nick Robertson shoot the puck in the net, have a good game, being on a part of an effective line. You can see what it was supposed to look like going into this year. Like it was supposed to look like against Buffalo every third game, maybe. But I don't know. Is it too late for him to salvage his season?
Well, not too late. I was disappointed that he wasn't able to seize that opportunity playing a lot of games consistently, getting decent ice time. And, that's all you always want. You always say, look, I want the chance. I want the chance. And I wouldn't say he squandered the chance, but he's not embraced the chance. So the line you're talking about is like, okay, I go back, Gary Volk got that big goal like 25 years ago. Okay, who can get that big goal in the playoffs that wins the series against the Philadelphia Flyers like he did, or Pittsburgh, whatever it was back then, and move on? Like, which one of them can get that timely goal that has been part of the Leaf scoring drought in the playoffs in recent years? And it still is kind of an evaluation process. I mean, a couple of years ago, Michael Bunting supplanted Nick Ritchie. Nick Ritchie couldn't do it. Michael Bunting, he said, okay, man, this guy's fitting in on the top six, and he's going to be your guy. Right now, you still got a lot of feelers out there. I mean, I thought the analogy Brad Treliving used, that we only got so many seats on the plane and we got more passengers than actual seats, still applies.
Okay, before break, I bet these guys that you couldn't name 4 of Santa's reindeer. Not 4, Gord. You want to take a crack at it?
Rudolph, Dasher, Dixon, Vixen, Cotsy.
Yeah, you got that one.
Wait, come Prancer, come Prancer, come Vixen, come Jimmy, come Ralphie. I don't know, man. I got to switch religions. I'm on the wrong one here. I got to start celebrating.
Ralph, Richie, Potsy. Yeah. Keep going.
What are they again? You know what they are?
They're Canadian reindeer.
Boy, oh boy. I can only imagine the gifts that you're given.
I don't know. What are they now? I'm on the hot seat here. I don't know.
Dasher?
Donner.
Dasher, that's right.
Donner.
Dancer.
Dancer.
Wasn't there a Prancer?
Prancer. That's right.
Yeah.
Vixen. Think Valentine's Day.
Cupid.
Yeah.
There's no Cupid.
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah.
What a bad handle.
Comet.
Buddy,
What's he talking about?
It's aggressive to name a reindeer Vixen. I don't know. All right. Okay, we got to cut this off.
I don't know. This was your question, not mine.
Yeah. Okay.
Hey.
I don't know. I'm going to go to another Santa question for
Gordy
40.
and Dougie.
Great job as always, pal. Have a great Christmas, okay?
Will do. Hey, Merry Christmas. Happy holidays to everybody. And fun as always. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Gord.
Gord
Appreciate
Stellick.
it.
All right. Don't go away. Jason York coming up.
Yorkie.
He'll name all 8. He's a sharp guy.
You have to be sharp to know the
More
reindeer.
with Yorkie as we go national on the Real Kyper and Bourne Show. Be right back. All right, it's the national edition of the Real Kyper and Bourne Show. We are live on Sportsnet 650 in Vancouver, Sportsnet 960 in Calgary, and right across your Sportsnet platforms. This hour of Real Kyper and Bourne brought to you by Bet365. Nick Kypreos, Justin Bourne, and Disco Dan Franceschi in for our Sammy McKee. Also on board, Derek Brandeo and Frank the Tank Braska.
Should we lead it off with the read that we didn't do in the first hour before we
Sure.
forget and
Okay.
get Yorkie?
Okay. Will we get in trouble if we don't read it?
I think we have to read, and we should read it for the
should
good
read
of.
Oh, the answer is yes. We will get in trouble.
Okay, yes.
Okay.
I
then do
will
it.
bear the brunt of it, fellas.
All right, let's do it.
All right. Food for Kids time. It's Sportsnet 590 The Fans 50/50 Fortune supporting food for kids, and we are now in the home stretch. So make sure you have entered for your chance to win while making a huge difference. Here's what you need to know. We've created a 50/50 lottery where the more money we raise, the more kids we can feed in the GTA, and the more you can win. The current take-home jackpot, which, by the way, will be announced on Thursday, it's up to $790,000.
Ooh.
$790,000.
Change your holiday, wouldn't it?
Oh, that's huge. Someone's going to take that home this upcoming Thursday, so continue to jack up that number. Let's get it as high as possible. For more details on how to buy tickets, go to foodforkids5050.ca or text the word cash to 590-590 and we'll send a link directly to your phone. It's the 50/50 Fortune supporting Food for Kids. Standard message and data rates apply.
Beautifully done.
All right. No more
Yele.
mentioning food the rest of the show
No.
because
Hungry?
my wife's had me on a cleansing.
Oh, are
Oh,
you really?
wow.
Yes.
We're just
Have you,
drinking.
have you noticed I haven't had any of your chocolates
Yeah.
on at your
Well,
desk?
you didn't come in with any sort of muffin
Nothing.
or anything today.
Nothing.
You're not eating food today?
Well, no. I'm eating, but I'm off like,
It's the good
the
stuff.
good stuff.
At this
And
time of year?
It's horrible.
Why aren't you doing it like the rest
Well,
of us
I'm-
slobs
I'm
January
I'm
1st?
trying to finish before I get to the really
Yeah.
goofy areas, but like
right.
I was out of control. But I was eating anything that wasn't nailed down.
Still doing it, man.
You
I gotta
know?
Stop.
I was like
I quit anytime I want.
I was like the shark from Jaws when you split his stomach open, like
Yeah.
there'd be a license plate coming out and an old running shoe. That was me. That was me.
Just a lamb euro.
All right, let's go to a guy who's fit as a fiddle, could
sure.
still play the game today. Jason York, former NHL defenseman, and now co-host of Coming in Hot podcast. What's going on, Yorkie?
Baby, coming in hot, Kipper. You're killing me. You're eating everything. And join the club. I'm eating everything in sight right now, too. It's a bad time of year. I gotta
Well,
stop.
it's a bad time of the year, but it's a good one to be a Ottawa Senator alumni because they're kind of rolling a little bit here. And just kind of the turnaround, Yorkie, and 3 in a row, 4 out of 5. And with the Rangers kind of slipping, is there a window right now for the Ottawa Senators?
Tell you what, well, if you're going to point at one thing, Kipper, Linus Ullmark, this guy's been all world. Do you know, so they played in Carolina on, I think it was Friday night. Up until that time, he had never beaten the Carolina Hurricanes. So
Wow.
that's not just with Ottawa, that's with the Boston Bruins. That's throughout his whole career. So something's going on in the water here, Kipper, because this team is playing so much differently than I can't remember the last time they played this way. And I can't remember the last time because I was at the game on Saturday night against Pittsburgh when they beat the Penguins in overtime. Ullmark got 2 standing ovations inside the building. I can't remember the last time a goaltender got a standing O in Ottawa. It's been a long time.
Yeah. Well, hey, it makes all the difference. And hate to do this to Sens fans, but this is what it looks like when you get goaltending. The game it feels like everyone is playing better when you get a few saves. Now, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I've been watching them. Is it possible that the elite players, the top end guys on the Sens, have taken a step too? Because watching Stützle right now, there's not many guys who control a game the way he does for me.
Yeah, you're a big Stützle guy, Bourne.
Big Stützle guy.
Yeah, you know what's funny, and I've kind of been watching him closely. I usually pay more attention to D, but when you watch Timmy Stützle, he's buying what Travis Green's been selling him since day one. And we all hear the term Turner foot game. He's a Turner foot player. What exactly does it mean? If you watch him on the back check, he's tracking as hard as a fourth liner right now. Because guys on the fourth liner, they don't back check, they're not playing.
Right.
Guys on your first line get away with it sometimes, but on Ottawa, everybody is accountable right now. So they're back pressuring, and Timmy Stützle, I'll tell you what, guys, he's been one of the hardest working guys on this team, and it shows. When you watch this guy, he's not going down like he was before because he's getting a little bit of reputation for that. I saw him take a hip check from Radko Gudas. I don't know if you saw that hit against Anaheim about a week ago. Got up, dusted himself off, got right back and started playing. So he's really matured as a player, fellas, and it's not just the offense. It's a 200-foot game.
Stützle, Norris, Kachuk, Sanderson, they get the headlines a little bit on this hockey club as being faces, but Batherson, the Drake, like I just watching him now, he should be in that mix, for one of the faces.
So I remember last time I was on with you guys, I think we chatted about Batherson a little bit. He's a type of guy, he's 6'3", sneaky big. You know, certain guys you play with and it looks like they got like fly paper or stick them on their hockey stick. You went, okay, how's that puck like sticking on a stick like that? He just looks like this year he's playing with a ton of confidence. He's strong on pucks. He's physical, because when Drake plays physical, he just adds that extra element to his game. But I'm with you, Kyper. He's a guy, like you look at his contract, what he's making right now, fellas, I think he's making 4 and change. He'd be on if you were ever considering a trade guy, he's almost an untouchable the way he's playing right now, fellas.
Yeah, I mean, 33 points in 30 games. I think a lot of people don't realize he's up there with, Brady Tkachuk and stats and all that. Yeah. And ask you a bit about Brady. I was looking at the shots of the leaders in Ottawa, and it's like 65, 125 for Brady, 60. Like, how does this guy end up with so many shots? He's not a typical hold the puck, rag it, skate around. Is it just constantly getting open in the O-zone?
It's like he's in front of the net and he's hitting a pinata. He's getting like 5 whacks at pucks all the time.
Maybe that's it.
You remember Big Walt when Keith Tkachuk, Kyper, you played a lot against Tkachuk.
Yeah.
Like he would stay in that radius, that 5-foot, 10-foot radius in front of the net, and he'll get 1, he'll get 2, he'll get 3 whacks. Like there's not many guys in the league right now, guys, that are 6'3", whatever Brady is, 215, 220, and it's just he's such a tough guy to move. So once he establishes his spot in front of the net, you're not moving him. And he's scored a few goals. He's getting some more shots from the outside too. Like he's kind of expanded that range, so he does have the 5-foot to 3-foot range, but he's also been pretty good from outside too. This team, like, what more can you say? Like they've had a real nice stretch here. The key is going to be, can they keep it up? They've got they're going on the road starting tomorrow, and they're on the road right into the beginning of January. So that's going to be the tell for the Ottawa Senators. Can they keep playing like this on the road?
I want to touch on that road trip, and I'll let you in a second. Just the blue line here, and if it's settled in at all. Nick Jensen's been, for me, a real pleasant surprise here, but the sense I'm getting, Yorkie, is they're still looking for a defenseman here. They're going to be one of a dozen teams looking to shore up a blue line, and I don't know if that means top 4 or not, but what have you seen out of that blue line on where they started, where they are now, or where they can get to? What's the ceiling?
So a couple of things, Kyper. So first of all, what I'm seeing, number one, you mentioned the guy right there, Jensen. He's come in and he's allowed Thomas Chabot to go back to playing the way Thomas Chabot. The last time Thomas Chabot played like this was when Dylan DeMello was in town. And that's probably, with all due respect to a lot of these guys that have played with Thomas Chabot since then, Jensen's a real NHL defenseman. He's a legit top 4 guy, and Chabot hasn't had that type of partner for a long, long time. But Jensen's come in and he's just been, those guys you play with, fellas, they can skate, they just think, they're low maintenance, they just do everything right. Not flashy, but that's what Nick Jensen is, and he's been perfect for Chabot. So that pairing's been great. Sanderson's been good. Like he's taken some heat here and there, but I think with Artem Zub out of lineup, that's kind of affected him a little bit. So even with a healthy Zub, I still thought these guys are going to look for another defenseman, especially if they're going to stay in this race, which I think they will. But I think a veteran D doesn't have to be a top 4, just somebody that is legit NHL defenseman, and it wouldn't hurt either if this guy is a guy that plays with a little bit of bite.
Yeah, when I look at this roster and I see, I like Sanderson a lot. I think he's a really good player. And I see Hamonic with him. I'm like, man, I don't know.
Yeah.
That doesn't strike me as a team that wins in the playoffs. So when you look at this roster, how serious do you think they are about making a bigger trade, about trying to add someone of significance to it? And where do you think they would look to make that add between the forwards, D, and goaltending?
Well, I think they're happy with their goaltending right now. Forsberg's hurt. I don't know if you guys saw the video of the E-Bug coming into the
Running up the on-ramp there. It was awesome.
coming up from the outlet malls. Like, come on, can somebody not pick this guy up?
I know.
Get a subway system going, for goodness sake.
Get something going, Kyper. Don't get me started on the light rail here, because that ain't working. But I think number one, I think you guys hit the nail on the head. I think in a perfect world you can get a defenseman, but that's like get in line. Like Kyper, you said it, get in line. Everybody wants a defenseman. If they could somehow get a defenseman, probably another forward that's an NHL type player. And Steve Stamkos is on the record. If he's always looking, if it's going to improve this hockey club, especially if they're going to continue to play the era right now. If this is going to continue, I wouldn't be surprised whatsoever if they tried to add a couple pieces.
All right. Winners 3 out of 4, 5 out of 6, I think, as well. And it's one thing, I guess, to beat Anaheim and Pittsburgh, Yorkie, and you mentioned the 3-0 win against Carolina, but this road trip, man, starting in Seattle tomorrow night, Calgary, Vancouver, Edmonton, Winnipeg, Minnesota,
this is it.
Dallas,
it's crunch time.
St. Louis, and Detroit. Like, what is going on here? Why? I get it. World Juniors, right?
Yeah.
You're getting kicked out of your building, but this is truly make or break, as JB just alluded to.
I think so. Like, just go on this road trip and stay in the race. Don't play yourself out of the race. Easier said than done, because you got a lot of tough teams. You're heading into Winnipeg, you're heading into Vancouver. Like, you got some tough games coming up. I'll tell you, I like how this team's playing right now, and I just hope when it's all said and done, guys, and the dust settles and you got your playoff team set, wouldn't it be great to see a Toronto-Ottawa series once again? Like, it's been too long. We need that. We need an Ottawa-Toronto.
You know, Yorkie, as we wake up this morning, the Leafs are in first in the Atlantic, and by points percentage, Ottawa's in the second wildcard spot. It could happen.
What a Christmas present that would be.
It would be awesome. It would be your thrill. Sportsnet would also be delighted. We didn't get to talk to you last week. What were your thoughts on Andlauer's soft tampering comments?
I lost it. Soft tampering.
It's just soft.
Not hard
It's
tampering.
not real tampering.
It's just soft tampering. I this is just my personal opinion. I think it goes back to, they talked about, well, they got punished the first round draft pick. It's like he came in, he bought the team. It's like, surprise, you're losing a first round draft pick. Yeah. It's like, oh, great. And I get it. And I actually like it, because I live in this city. I understand this city. People here in Ottawa have a little bit of a chip on their shoulder, and they want to protect it. And I like that Andlauer is standing up for the little guys.
Well,
so, I got no issues with it.
Yeah, listen, I think for sure it ties into the fact that they got ripped off a pick, for sure, off of the Pierre Dorian trade. But the other one, too, is that maybe Yorkie, he's taking one for the team a little bit in terms of not so much what other people think outside of it, but how it maybe felt Brady Tkachuk and his wife and any other player to say, I've got your back. I think, maybe it's a rallying point a little bit for the guys in the room.
That's a great point, Kyper. And I'll tell you this, with this team right now, the way the mood has changed, and that's all Andlauer. Like he's come in here and he lives in the community here. Like, he's bought a place, he lives here. Like, when Melnick was here, like he would fly in and he wasn't part of the fabric of the community. So I know he gets it by coming in here, living here. He goes into the office every day at the rink, and he understands the city. He's out, he's going for dinner, he's talking to people. And I like it. Like, he's talking to the guys on the team. What do you guys need? What do we need to be better? What are you guys seeing? So it's like a we're in this together thing, Kyper, like you said. And I think players, especially today's player, I think they appreciate that. They get it. And I think it goes a long way.
Well, Yorkie, isn't it crazy then to look at what's happening in Buffalo with Terry Pegula, who a lot of Sabres fans have accused of basically abandoning them in favor of the Bills, who are obviously a money printing machine at this point. Do you look at the Sabres right now, knowing where the Sens have been in the past, and just see how frustrating it is, and like, God, it's a long road back to the surface from there.
It's I'll tell you, just Ottawa has suffered for a long time with not making the playoffs, and then you say, okay, it's bad here. Look at Buffalo. What is it, 13 seasons? So yeah, totally get that. But I'll tell you, just there's a different vibe going on in this city right now. And I mentioned being at the last game the other night, seeing the people. I'll tell you, biggest reason is ownership, which we talked about, and it's been such a long time since they've had that legit goaltender like Linus Ullmark, and I don't know if you guys have saw the numbers lately. His save percentage in this little run they've gone on is off the charts. Like I think he's leading in a bunch of different categories. He's turned it around totally, guys, because he had that slow start. Now he's come out and he's playing like the Linus Ullmark everybody expected.
What is it you attribute it to? Just a focus thing for him? Just finally being acclimated to the surroundings? I didn't even say
Acclimated?
that. There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. That's why he's here. Is that it, Yorkie?
He was battling an injury early on in the season, Kipper, and I think potentially he might have come back because you always want to get back. You're excited, new team. I just don't think he was 100% right away. The city, well, he came in here, he bought a house, and he moved into a neighborhood where all the guys were. So there is an adjustment there. I also think too the team's just playing better too in front of them. Like they're not like before early in the season. It was a little looser. Like they've had games where they've given up. I think they held the Bruins one period to no shots in Boston. So I think it's a combination of Allmark and how the team's playing. So it's a more predictable way of playing hockey that the Senators are doing right now. If that makes any sense, they're not giving up those huge chances all the time. It's just it's a better team system. And when they do break down, which all teams do, Allmark's been there. He's been really good.
Well, we're having a moment where we can acknowledge that the Sens have good, solid ownership and elite star players, which is very nice to say. Let's beat up some other franchises. How about the Rangers, Yorkie?
I
mean, what a mess, eh?
Boy.
They started 12-4, and I think, what are they, below 500? No, they're 15-14-1 now. What a mess.
So we were talking about this today on our show on the pod this morning. I don't like the mix of their top players. And if you look around the top teams in the league, their best players are usually their hardest workers. We just talked about Stützle, how hard he's working right now. You look at Colorado, how hard Nathan McKinnon works. You look at Mark Stone, like these guys are all 200-foot players. Crosby at whatever he is, 36 right now, he's still tracking back. He's still in the right place. He's still on top of the puck. I just find when I watch the Rangers, guys, too many of their star players like a Panarin and like a Zibanejad, great players, talented players, but they're not 200-foot players.
So on one hand, we got the New York Rangers and Chris Drury putting names out there available, all the stars, guys walking in, perhaps feeling like they're on eggshells. Today, Frank Saravelli reporting that Pagula goes into the Buffalo dressing room and basically says that not to expect anything. We're status quo here and everything's fine, no problem. Don't feel bad. Yeah. Let's go. So, Yorkie, where is that fine line in the middle for you?
I thought you were going to say he came into the dressing room and just blasted everybody and said, "You guys are getting a lump of coal this year for Christmas."
He's cashing those Bills checks. He's like, whatever, we're fine.
He told them no big trades. No big trades coming.
Oh, boy. Yeah. I don't know. Like, when you look at Buffalo's roster on paper, they've got some good players. Like, they've got some real good young defensemen. They got some nice prospects up front. They got forwards with size. Like I really like Alex Tuck as a player. It's tough to put a finger on it. Like, is their goaltending good enough? Probably not. Like, let's start there. Like, look around the NHL. Show me good teams, usually, right? We'll show you a good goalie. Mm-hmm. They pretty well go hand in hand, right?
But, the thing that, to me, is separating Ottawa right now from some of these teams, and I'll give you another one here, Detroit, is high-end guys. Like, if you're only as good as your best players. You look at the guys in the Cup Finals over recent years, it's all Barkov and Tkachuk and McDavid and Draisaitl and McKinnon and his crew. What's Detroit's ceiling for you? We watched them beat the Leafs this weekend, but it's like, are they really going to get there with Larkin and Raymond as their best players?
Yeah. I really like Detroit's coach, by the way. I think he's a good guy, smart coach. I think he's one of the smartest guys in the game. I loved him when they had him on in the playoffs that year too. He looked like a supervillain there when they had him on. He was great. Right. Again, when I look at, I love Dylan Larkin as a player, but I look after Dylan Larkin, I just there's something to be said about having elite game breakers on your team. I just think it's tough to put a finger on, guys. It just, when I look at the Detroit Red Wings, I'm not sure what their identity is. Like, what kind of team are they?
For sure.
What do they do? They're just kind of one of those teams right now for me that's kind of in the murky middle. And I don't know what they are. And that's probably why they are where they are right now. It's because they're really a team with not much of an identity.
Hey, we didn't really get a chance to say this, but the reunion of the pizza line in Ottawa, seeing them all together, Alfredson, Heatley, and Jason Spezza, that was kind of fun.
They should have had you out there with them, Yorkie.
I went down and said hi to the boys in the box there. I went to see the Heater. That was the Heater's first time back in the building too. And he was pretty, Danny was pretty candid too about coming back. And they said, well, you haven't been back in a long time. And he's like, well, nobody invited me.
Is that right?
Oh, guaranteed.
He was just like, what do you want me to do? Just show up? Like, you have to care about your alumni.
He goes, I've been waiting for my invite for a long time. And it kind of goes what I was talking about. Like, Michael Andlauer strolls in the town and says, you know what? Let's start re-engaging our alumni. Let's start making our history important. Let's bring back Danny Heatley and welcome this guy into our building. I think it was great. And Jason Spezza showed up. They had a nice moment at center ice. They put him in a nice private box. But people, you guys, Kipper, you know this. Guys around the league talk. How well does this team treat their alumni? Are these guys first class or not? There's some teams I play for who I've never gotten a call in my life. They don't even know I exist. But when the Ottawa Senators are doing things differently now, fellas, and it's starting at the top. Like, he's like, that to me just was a real classy move. And Danny said that. He's like, hey, I got invited back by Mr. Andlauer. That's why I came back. And we'll give Ian Mendez our friend Ian Mendez a little credit too, guys. I think he might have had his fingerprints on this one as well.
Sharp guy.
Yeah. I just know that
I took him under my wing here at Sportsnet, Yorkie. I want you to know that. Tell him that.
Back in the day, eh?
Tell him that.
I'll tell him.
Like, as good as your team is currently, you still have to be in touch with your past. I know it was a big thing with the Islanders, and my dad's alumni group, Milbury, came in there, took the pictures off the wall, and, you know, all of a sudden it's going to be the new era Islanders, and no one went back for 15 years. Now they lean way into it.
I don't want to.
It's 100.
Go ahead, Yorkie.
It's 100%. It's 100%, Kipper. Like, you go around Toronto, like Dougie Gilmore, Wendell Clark, these guys are still enshrined in the tradition. And to me, it just helps sell your brand. And that's something I'll give you a great example here in Ottawa. One of the first things Michael Andlauer did when he came in, our box used to be way up in the 400 level. 400 level, still not bad seats, but he's like, you know what? I want these guys lower so people can see them. So they're out, they're walking around. You can move the box down, and it's been just little things like that make a huge difference.
That's cool.
Yeah, I don't want to embarrass any team right now, but I will tell you an organization that's been around a long time offers their alumni a discount on drinks when they come to the game.
No way, a discount?
A discount on drinks.
Stop it.
No,
10% off?
That's all I'll say.
That's pretty wild.
Yeah. So we still.
Is it the Hartford Whalers? Because that would make sense.
No, we still got some work to do to acknowledge players of the past.
Come on, Kipper. Who's this?
No.
What are you talking about?
No, stop it, Yorkie.
Right.
Just you know what?
We'll do the math here, Borny. Well, Kipper, it's not Hartford. I don't think it's Toronto.
Yeah, it definitely isn't. One thing I know about, working for Sportsnet and Rogers, coming here and embarrassing Toronto's not going to do us any good. So it's not going to be Toronto, I tell you that.
Yorkie, great stuff, buddy. Really appreciate your time. Happy holidays, all right? All the best to you and your family.
Merry Christmas, everybody. Thanks for having me, guys. Anytime.
Okay.
Thanks so much, Yorkie. Appreciate
it. Jason York, always great stuff out of him.
Do you get a bill in the mail? Or it's like the 407 bill, just like shows up. 3 Coronas.
Interesting. Just to kind of put a bow on the Buffalo Sabres here, and Pagula and going in there. I'm not sure that that's completely the answer either, to reinforce everybody. Like, no one's going anywhere. We got the answer in this room. I mean, I'm not saying that you got to go super hard, but there has to be something in the middle there that tells everybody this is unacceptable. You just can't feel like win or lose, there's a paycheck and booze.
I can't help but think. So we've been watching the Leafs be competitive for 7 years now, usually finishing second, third in their division. And I look at the Sabres lineup and I go, where would this guy fit in if they were on the Leafs? And it's a lot of third line players. So it's tough to blame the coach. Easier to blame the GM maybe, but I don't really know what they're supposed to do, because what he said, that the answers are in this room, the answers are not in this room. It's Zach Benson, Peterka, Quinn, Cousins, Greenway, Kulich, Zucker. I don't know. That's not going to win you enough games to make playoffs and contend. So they do need to do something.
I mean, their best offensive player yesterday was a guy that was out of the lineup for 5 games prior.
Yes.
Kind of tells the story, right?
It tells you something.
Yeah, it tells you something. Say that your goaltender hadn't played in what? He's called up from the AHL. Yeah. Stuck him in there. Again, you can easily find reasons as to why they're in that position.
And they probably, they need everyone. They can't be without Rasmus Dahlin. But the division's, not that they're even in a great division, man. They got work to do. You know what I would like to see them do? Sorry? Stuff like St. Louis getting Cam Fowler. Try to win now. Go get Trouba. You need to try to win hockey games.
The Greenway giveaway. I've probably had, 2 or 3 of those in my career. And every single one of them, I just wanted to die.
Well, and they always end up in your net.
He had the natural, God, I screwed up reaction.
Yeah.
But I don't know if people truly know what that feels like when you give up the puck like that.
And you're a winger, you're kind of helpless just watching it in your D zone, don't let this come back to me. Don't let this come back to me. It's like when you take a bad penalty, you're in the box, you're just like, oh.
Oh, without a doubt. You got a little game time for us there, Disco?
Yes, indeed, Kipper. It's game time, presented by Bet365. Visit the app for the latest odds and find out why it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 19 plus. Ontario only. Play responsibly. So 3 games in the NHL tonight, including Stanley Cup final rematch. The Panthers in Edmonton to take on the Oilers. The Panthers plus 105 on the money line. The Oilers minus 125. Favorites on the money line. Washington in Dallas. The Stars favored in that one, minus 155. And Colorado on the road against Vancouver, coming off a bit of a stinker on Saturday night. They are favored, the Avalanche, that is, minus 135 against the Canucks. Personally, when I look at the 3 games, I kind of like Edmonton. Kind of like the Oilers at home in this matchup. And I'm actually going to reference something that Matthew Tkachuk said earlier today when he was talking about playing in a Stanley Cup final rematch. He referenced how he was so angry last year when they played Vegas. They played Vegas twice, beat them twice. And so I'm going to follow that same trend of being angry when you have to play against the team that beat you in the Cup final. And I'm going to say Edmonton tonight. I don't mind them on the money line at minus 125, paying a little bit of that price to get them at home against Florida.
Here is Florida's goals for in the last 4 games. 3 for the win, 2 for the win, 0 for the loss, 0 for the loss. So they're struggling to score goals right now. Oilers, and I saw there's an article on our website about the Oilers saying that they don't care about this whole, they beat them last year. They don't care. It's just another game. What do you think? Just another game?
You like the juice, huh?
No, not another game.
Not another game.
No. They beat you in game 7. Game 7 by a goal. So, yes, I like the Edmonton bet.
By the way, Barkov, sort of questionable tonight. I know Paul Maurice said he's quote-unquote hopeful that he'll play, but he did not skate today.
An injured Barkov would really help.
That was Game Time, presented by Bet365. Visit the app for the latest odds and find out why it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 19 plus. Ontario only. Play responsibly.
God, the energy you brought on that thing was unbelievable.
Thank you, Kipper.
Like all-time high. And we got even angry you a little bit.
It's refreshing.
Right? Usually we just get sad Sammy. Sad Sammy.
Leafs will probably lose by 3. Because they always do.
Oh,
I'm kidding.
So
You're the best.
fun to beat up when he's not here.
I know.
Isn't
He
it?
can't defend himself.
Okay, let's take a quick break. When we return, we'll get into a little bit more of this Stanley Cup final rematch. We got a little sound from a Tkachuk. More when we return to Real Kyper and Bourne. Nick Kypreos, Justin Bourne, Disco Dan, Franceschi in for Sammy McKee. All right, as we said before the break, Panthers face the Oilers for the first time since the Stanley Cup final. This one is a prime Amazon game, right, of the week?
Yeah.
Correct.
Pretty good one.
Good. Real good. if you're not going to get the Leafs in there, it's as good as it gets. I'm just talking ratings wise.
What do you expect? Like Florida,
Yeah.
they're coming off a tough loss where they didn't score. They didn't have their captain. Florida seems one night they look like they're ready to defend their championship. The next night they're like,
Yeah. Let me tell you who the Oilers have beat their last 3 games. The Vegas Golden Knights, the Minnesota Wild, and the Tampa Bay Lightning.
Yeah.
They're playing pretty well.
They are playing well, and Skinner's playing really well, and Darnell Nurse is playing as well as we've seen him in a long time.
They look good.
He looks good.
And I mean, it's not that hard to see this Oilers team. I saw something the other day about people not believing in the Oilers. How many people at Sportsnet picked them to win the Cup?
Well, I think it was everybody but 2.
It was like 20 analysts and 17 or 18 picked the Oilers to win the Cup. So this is what we saw. I was one of them. This team looks like that team that can win a Stanley Cup. They just feel less pressure filled and more like themselves. I don't know. So yeah, I can see them, a little frustrated tonight taking it to Florida pretty good, but I think it actually hurts them that Florida's lost the last 2 games because they're a prideful bunch and they got a good coach.
All right, let's go to Matthew Tkachuk on facing the Edmonton Oilers.
Yeah, I was pretty angry playing against Vegas for the first time last year. I mean, there's nothing you can do about the year before, obviously, but you want to, they took away your dream, basically. So I remember that was a very hard-fought game, to say the least, against Vegas last year. So I expect tonight will be a very, very, very intense game with a lot of physicality. I mean, they got a lot of speed and skill, but I'm sure this one's going to be a pretty intense one.
I would expect the same.
Yep.
Reasonable.
100%.
Kind of tough. No, sorry. Like if you're the Panthers and they, the other team really wants to get mad and make it physical and whatever, and it's like, we won the Cup already, man. And go ahead, go wild. We also have the coach on the intensity. Interested in hearing Paul Maurice?
Are we allowed to play him without Sammy here? Because
I think we should play him extra without Sammy. Because he hates him so much. Well,
all right, let's go to Paul Maurice on his thoughts.
82 games, it can be a bit of a grind, and finding that energy every night is a challenge. And the good teams find it, but they've got some structure and they've got good players, so they win enough games. But these games aren't the same as the other. I don't think. We'll talk about the fact we don't like our last 2 games. They'll talk about they're playing great right now, but these games are different. The intensity level in any team that we've played in the playoffs the last 2 years has just been higher from both teams.
do you think this Florida Panthers team can do it again? Do you think they're good enough?
Yeah, I think the hole left between Montour and Ekman Larson is substantial. I am not a Nate Schmidt fan.
No?
No.
Just stylistically?
I think we've seen him in Winnipeg. We've seen him in Vegas. Did he have a pit stop in Vancouver?
Yes, he did. Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. Okay.
He likes to go.
I'm watching him a few nights where I don't know if he closed gaps well enough. Yeah. And that's where I think, again, the loss between 2 substantial NHL top 4 or 5 guys at a championship level has been hard for Paul Maurice's club to overcome.
It looks like they're going to scratch Adam Boqvist, and Schmidt will play. So he's in tonight. Yeah, I mean, he's 33 years old, right? He's been a great player, he's been a very good player in the league, and I don't know that any team with real cup aspirations has him playing, 18 minutes a night.
And the other one, I'll let you go.
I was going to say that's the key, though. I actually think when you look at both of these teams, it's interesting because the parallel of the blue line being a bit of an issue, it exists for both teams, right? Like Edmonton, and I looked this up earlier today because we all remember slow start last year from November, I think it was 12th onwards, best winning percentage in the NHL, right? Yeah. This year, almost an identical script. Like since November 18th, they have the 3rd best winning percentage in the NHL. It's .731. Yeah. But still, I don't think, if we look at it sort of, if we're being honest, both of these teams, there are no illusions that they are good enough But if they upgrade the blue line, they can both certainly be right back where they were a year ago.
Yeah.
But short of that, odds are it's going to be a very challenging road, I find, for both of these teams.
It does seem like a good year for either team to take a big swing. Like,
Yeah.
whatever is available at the deadline, right? Like if you're Florida in particular, you got to strike while the iron's hot.
And for the record, we're seldom honest on this show.
If we're being honest.
If you're going to use that phrase, you got to
Yeah.
use it on another show. If we're
Doesn't
being
work.
honest.
Doesn't work here.
We always speak in hyperbole, and we don't tell the truth.
The other thing that sticks out for me for Florida as well is just Bobrovsky has not had a level of consistency either. And I don't know what his save percentage is. I haven't brought it up here, but I don't know if you have it right there. But there's some nights when he kind of looks like old
Yeah, old.
Bob.
Middle, Bob.
Middle.
I will say,
Bob.
when I sort the 5-on-5 save percentage by goaltending, like just goaltending, so
Yeah.
not Bob specifically, Florida's 5th worst in the NHL. So they're not getting saves. And we talked about Ottawa earlier. Suddenly they look better when they get saves. Funny how that happens. You probably have Bob now.
No, I don't.
Yeah.
I don't. My computer crushed up.
You're all good.
Classic. Eh? That's a
At,
Sammy move right there.
At all strengths, they're 5th worst in the league. So big difference.
All right. Just a reminder, this hour of Real Kyper and Bourne brought to you by Bet365 Vancouver. What did you make out of the Boston Bruin game where they kind of handed them their lunch? And
Yeah.
Brad Marchand kind of got the last laugh a little bit.
Can't boo Marchand, eh?
Taunting the crowd with the old, I can't hear you or I can hear you, one of the two.
Right. Yeah, I get a kick out of this Canucks team. It's they have a lot of potential, but it does feel like Tocchet is having a harder time squeezing that out of them this year. Like they can get to these great heights, but they have some real stinker performances too. They're a very strange team to me, and it feels like there's a lot going on behind the scenes that maybe we're not sure about. We do have a Tocchet clip on the Canucks lacking emotional pushback. Why don't we get to that now and chat about it? Let's talk it clip.
We have, let's face facts, 4 or 5 guys. They're struggling. They're struggling to get them emotionally invested in the game, and that's my job to get these guys. Still, certain guys, we got to find another gear from them. They got to understand that it's the NHL, and you can't play one good game and then 2 bad. You got or whatever. You got to be. This is a game, a sport, the NHL, where you have to be jacked up to play the game. You have to be emotionally in the game, and sometimes the guys takes them like 30 minutes to get in the game for whatever reason.
Wow.
It's pretty
I
jarring.
mean, he's getting one of the most jacked up guys back in the lineup in Miller.
Yeah.
Is he not? Like that guy leads the league in, I think, jacked up emotion.
Jacked upness. Yeah, I mean, they're a 600 winning percentage team this year. They just got Thatcher Demko back. Miller is coming back. Like Besser had missed time earlier in the year.
So who's he talking about?
Petey.
You think?
Are we allowed to talk about Petey?
Well, Elliott traded him to the Buffalo Sabres.
Petey's like Nylander, where like if you mention him, a certain section of the fan base, no matter what you say, it's like you cannot criticize this man.
You're not going to get emotional Petey.
I mean,
Are you?
I don't know,
do you?
but it's like Willie.
Are you kind of excluding him and you're talking to others?
I don't know. Is it you're allowed to ask for emotion, I think. What did you say about Elliott trading him?
Elliott had a dream, I think. I don't know.
Yeah, little epiphany. Little hypothetical trade.
Yeah, and he's got that market kind of a bit of an uproar. Yeah. On his podcast, he mentioned Pettersson to Buffalo for Byram.
Yep, Bowen Byram and Dylan
Cousins.
And to be clear, this was not a report. This was him being like, would that
Well, if it happens, then he's going to say I reported it. And if it doesn't happen, then it was just off the top of my head.
Right.
Right. He's covered. That's what the insiders do.
Little from column A, a little from column B.
It is interesting because like the Sabres so badly have to do something. And the very thing I said in this hour, I think, is that they just don't have the elite top end guys to build around. Like Thompson's great, and then Dahlin, you're not loving power. You throw EP40 in the mix.
I wouldn't make this trade if I'm Vancouver at all.
for Cousins and Byram.
But you would?
I like it.
You do?
Really?
Well, I think Cousins is 23 years old.
He is, yeah.
He has a 30-goal season under his belt, if I'm not mistaken. He's under contract for a long time, and he's a worker bee, very much in the Tocchet mold. Byram has high upside. I know that he's not going to be Quinn Hughes, though. Hughes is going to play power play
I don't know
one.
how good he's going to be either.
Yeah, you don't love Byram.
Well, Colorado, kind of a good, smart team.
Yeah.
Why would they just
I will say,
get rid of him?
when there's multiple teams that are like, someone else can have
Hey.
this, you worry.
Yeah, you do worry.
You worry for sure when a guy's available and he's young and talented, and it's like,
Yeah.
why?
Yeah.
Why is he
Yeah.
available again?
Because they want to trade him at the apex value.
Right.
That's what it is. It's the
Right.
perception of trading him at his peak a little bit too early, but then in hindsight, it'll look pretty beneficial.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the teams know first. I've seen that enough being around teams where they're like, this guy ain't
And
it.
are we convinced that Miller and Pettersson are just they're going to be Vancouver Canucks for the next 2 or 3 years?
Well, if Pettersson isn't, probably increases the odds that Miller is.
Or vice versa?
Right. But,
That you get rid
if
of
you were to
Miller.
pick a horse to ride and you're Rick Tocchet and Jim Rutherford,
Yeah.
Alvin, we know what type of
Well,
horse they would pick.
But this is where Miller's left everybody with such unanswered, questions. Like, okay,
Mhm.
does he want to stay long term? Are you okay? Do you want to go back to the States? Do you what's going on here? So I would think that Petey, off of his recent signing, is more committed long term than what I don't know about Miller.
You know what stands out to me, guys, as it relates to Pettersson? There was a show, actually, I think it was maybe May or June we were doing, and I was filling in for Sammy as well. But we actually talked about Pettersson exit interview with the Canucks where he mentioned, I need to get away from all this, right? Where he kind of was really, really hypersensitive to the idea of noise being out there. Just, that stuff sticks with you, right? Like it says something about the type of personality he is. And in the right environment, and Bourne, I think you're right on. Like, it's very similar to Willie in that respect. In the right situation, can be a chameleon, right? You just embrace and admire all the skill and talent. You forget about the other stuff. But when you need to lean on that guy to be the guy or one of the top dogs, a little bit of a different story at times.
He was leaned on pretty heavy to sign that contract when he did, and he did well for himself. Jason Bruff, who we have on the show from Halford and Bruff, a great tweet is, my anxious Canucks fan brain just led me to the buyout calculator for Dylan Cousins. Already seeing like the trade happen and it going wrong, and how do we solve this?
The other one in the equation is Brock Besser. I've had him on my Sportsnet.ca intriguing list.
Rather move him and keep Petey.
So he's also in play. I don't know if you guys caught Jimmy Rutherford with Ray Ferraro and Scott Oak on After Hours, but he brought up Brock Besser's situation and really non-committal either way.
Yeah.
Not reinforcing that we'd like to keep him or we want him.
So not
part of our
Don
team.
Waddell on Olivier?
No.
By the way, we had Olivier him on our show. What did he say? He said that
he ain't
guy's not going anywhere.
He ain't going anywhere.
Yeah.
Didn't get that out of Jimmy Rutherford on Brock Besser. So there's another piece that could fit in with changing the makeup substantially of the team.
I don't believe
without moving on Miller or Petey.
I don't believe that they would trade Miller or Petey purely because the guys don't get along great. Like, that's not the end of the world. I'm sure you had some teammates that you didn't love, but you're 20-some guys. You don't have to sit by them at dinner. You don't have to go out with them.
Okay, I don't know. Again, I'm not talking specifics on Miller and Petey and their scenario.
You're talking about
But
stars.
I'm saying that if one player has problems with one player, then there's a chance that multi-players have trouble.
Do they line up an
with
army behind
one
them?
player.
Yeah.
So it's not just we're moving somebody out because he's pissed off one
You're
person.
moving someone out because he's a problem.
Because there's probably more than one player that kind of feels the same way about a particular player. And again, I am not talking about Petey versus Miller or the Vancouver Canucks versus Miller. I am saying in general,
this is a generalized
when
statement.
I've been in dressing rooms, when we know a certain guy's a tough egg in the room, it's usually because he's upset more than one guy. That's, I don't know if that helps you or not.
It does help me a lot. Yeah, because it does make sense. It's, I had asked someone about Miller's situation who not that they knew about it, but just when players go through a hard time off the ice, and I asked them about burnout. And this person's fairly versed in this sort of thing, and they said, it's never just burnout, right? There's always something else that triggers it. There's an event, there's whatever. It works with your point that it's never just one guy. These things that come out that it's like, oh, it's burnout. Oh, there's always behind the scenes a whole flowering issue from this one that gets brought forward for the rest of us to see. So that would be interesting.
Well, plenty of intriguing storylines in Vancouver, man.
32% of Canucks fans, according to Bruff's poll, would do Cousins and Byram for Petey. 68 say hell no.
I will say this, though, that, Petey signs that 8-year deal. This is the only window that his no move doesn't kick in, right?
Oh.
So keep that in mind, that
It's in mind.
if Vancouver ever entertained the thought of trading Petey, they would have to do it by March, because
Would you like a talented but mercurial center?
I shouldn't say that. They'd have to
Jack
trade him
Eichel all over again.
I have to rephrase that. They would have to trade him to have an effect on this season, meaning that they could trade him in the summer. They could trade him at the draft.
Okay.
They could trade him up until July 1st when his no move kicks in.
Right.
And the reason why he didn't get a no move is because he wasn't eligible. He was too young to get it on the first year of this deal.
The Canucks have this window.
Yeah.
Gotcha. All right. Well,
So-
that is something to keep an eye on.
All right, what else you got?
Well, we had our games for tonight. There's actually not much time left here, Kip, to dig too much. Do you want to talk? Let's talk about the games tonight. Florida, Edmonton.
That's
Prediction.
I think Edmonton's feeling it right now, and I think there's still some question marks on Florida.
We got Washington, Dallas.
Washington, Dallas.
Washington, Dallas.
When are we going to really start believing in Washington, guys?
I'm not
They're
going to
really
do it.
good.
No, you
Oh,
are.
no?
I'm not
You
in.
are.
Really?
No, Dallas.
And
Absolutely.
Dylan Strome's turning himself into a nice, really nice player. Dare I say, all-star caliber.
He's having a great year, and even in the
Yep.
absence of Ovi, has done a good job of continuing to produce offense. Your boy Chikrin's doing well there too, but still, I got Dallas tonight.
Bounce back for Vancouver in the late one against Colorado.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Taco.
Yeah. Too much of
he'll
an
get
egg
him
on
going.
Saturday.
He'll get
Yeah.
him going.
I like the Avs.
Okay, our thanks to Gord Stellick in the first hour and Jason York at the top of the hour. Hey, who's kidding who? The focus is on the Stanley Cup rematch. Enjoy it. Enjoy your game. And we're right back here tomorrow. Now, where is our Sammy going to make a cameo appearance on
Let's see if
our
he get hung
show?
up at customs or not on the way back.
Boy, that Josh Allen looks good.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, they scored
If I'm
48
put-
points,
if-
and he
hey.
said they left a few out there after the game.
If I'm
MVP.
If I'm Pagula, I forget I own the Sabres too. Enjoy your night, everybody. We're back tomorrow on the Real Kyper and Bourne Show.